Hey guys, what's up? So today we're gonna go over the Metcon 8 that Nike dropped. It's been a few months they've been out, so I've gotten some time to try them and see my thoughts. So I'm in the house today because it is like 10 degrees here and I'm not in the mood to start the heater in the garage and get everything set up out there. So here we are. So first off, here is the Metcon 8. This was not one of the first colorways they dropped, but it's probably one of my favorites that's out right now. So that's why I grabbed this pair to go through. So first off, the construction, we'll go over that, and then we'll kind of go into its functionality and how I think they do. So the upper is a lightweight mesh. Their older Metcon 7s were kind of a chain link. They're almost like circular pattern through it. This is just a mesh throughout. It's called a lightweight mesh is all they really have listed on their website. And then they have this plastic. You can kind of see, or it feels plasticky. It looks plasticky. The little boxes. So that's like I would assume heat melted, or it's an overlay. So some of the early models, that overlay goes through the front, wherever that mesh is, which hopefully makes it more durable. I've not pushed it to the limit to test that. The Metcon 7, the first kind of rendition of this shoe, there was a lot of tearing that I would see and holes that you would have at the crease mark or where your toes bend. So hopefully this box-shaped overlay makes them stronger. I wasn't a huge fan of the looks of that overlay when they first came out, and part of that is because they would have the underneath mesh a different color than the overlay. So then that also changed this Metcon word, and then that would be, it would like stick out like a sore thumb. But I think when the overlay matches the underneath mesh color, it looks better. The other thing, the Nike Swoosh, a lot of the designs have this almost tiger stripe design, which at first I was like, ooh, I do not like that, but it's really grown on me, especially if it's a decent colorway. I know on the custom Nike website you can get solid color swoosh there as well. So the tongue is pretty similar. It still has your lace lock, it's called. The only difference is it used to lock down towards this aspect of the tongue on the 7s, but it does not anymore. So you either have to lock it down and tie your laces over it, or undo it and then lock your laces down like that. It doesn't really bother me. I found in the older ones, I a lot of times would just leave it locked down because it didn't really bother me. I didn't have much trouble with shoes coming untied, but now you have to still lock it up. You can still tie your shoes over it and basically pretend it's not there, but you have to, it only has the one Velcro spot to latch. So the laces and eyelets are a little different. They used to have what's called like almost fly wire, I think it was, and it was almost strings that would come from below the insole and loop out by the eyelets. And here I'll actually just show you what I'm talking about. So this fly wire comes out, which is basically a piece of paracord, and runs between the liner and the outer of the shoe and ends somewhere in the midsole from how far I've torn it down to see. So the 8s don't have that, which I don't think that really affects the function. Supposedly it provided a pretty well or more locked down feel, but I haven't noticed that. And then the inside eyelets are pretty plain too. The laces are the same, flat laces. I really like flat laces, so I can't complain about those. I think they're great. The outsole is identical, as you can see. I like the grooves. I think it provides good bending and response in the toe box with the grooves they put in. I think they did a good job with those. I think the midsole is a little bit less cushioned. I feel like all Metcons are a little less cushioned than some CrossFit shoes, although you get a good like feeling of the ground with that. Some of them, I mean, you put them on, especially like the 4s, the Metcon 4s, I felt like you put on and you just felt like you were like walking barefoot almost. So pretty rigid midsole, which some people like, some don't. Some like softer shoes, some like more rigid shoes. Depends on the day. I like both. Depends what I'm doing. The insole is pretty standard. If I can get it out here. Maybe. The lettering hasn't completely worn off, but it will, like the rest of them, I'm sure. It's not super cushioned, but it's good enough. I like it. The heel is pretty similar as well. You still have this rigid plastic piece for doing handstand push-ups, so it'll help rub against the wall and make your push-ups more smooth. This shoe has a 4mm drop, which is pretty typical for Nike. You get that really flat feeling on the ground. The toe box, if I have trouble with a pair of shoes, it's usually in the toe box. So if I don't complain about it and they fit me okay, then it's a pretty good shoe, I think. The toe box is a little bit pointier than the Metcon 7s, which I'm not crazy about, but they're not to the point it's like an elf shoe on me. It doesn't bother me to the point I wouldn't wear them, but it is definitely a little pointier here. My feet fit the toe box shape of this a little bit better, of the 7s, but that's okay. The 8's not pointy enough to notice a huge difference when you're wearing them. Like most Metcon 7s, I would do a half size up from your typical daily wear shoe. They fit just a tiny bit tight. If you had Metcon 7s and you're gonna get a pair of Metcon 8s, you should be fine going the same size as the 7s. Weight-wise, they're about the same. Not enough to notice a difference when you're wearing them. So as far as functionality, we've all grown to expect stability and a good weightlifting shoe from Nike, which is what you get with this shoe. I would not do a whole bunch of running in them. They are super stable. They have good ground contact. They might be a tiny bit lighter for certain Metcon or plyometric movements, but overall it's not enough to matter. The response is about the same. Like I talked about earlier, the Metcon shoes just have less response than some shoes and lifting shoes out there, which is good because some people like that stable foot so they don't roll forward when they have a heavy load on. Overall, I think the Metcon 8 is an excellent shoe. I do not really think there's enough difference between the 7 and the 8 that I would just go buy an 8 for the fun of it unless you love the color. And right now you can get some Metcon 7s on sale for $70, I think, which is almost half off the original price. These run $130. And then Nike offers 10% off if you're a military, healthcare, teacher, student, stuff like that. So a little bit of a discount there. So the pricing is about the same as Reebok Nano X2. Depending on the day, some days I grab my Nanos, some days I grab my Metcons, but I would probably go with a Metcon today if you ask me. The Reebok shoes overall have a little more response, so box jumps, burpees, but the Metcon is definitely better to lift in my opinion. So hopefully they're more durable this year and we don't see the ripping of the toe box and that chain link mesh. Another major change in the shoe that I forgot to touch on, which I'll touch on quickly, is this is called the medial rope guard. It's got some grooves that the thought was it'll help protect your shoe climbing up and sliding down a rope. And then it's got basically these grooves are small little overhangs, which would theoretically help you climb the rope better. They got rid of it on this shoe, which is a good thing because I did not think it looked very good. A lot of times it was a different color than the base of the shoe and it stuck out terribly. This Metcon wording still sticks out, but not as bad as the medial rope guard. Functionality, I think the majority of your rope climb is really in the arch area of your foot. So I think this fairly rigid area of the outsole should be sufficient. So overall, the Metcon 8 I think is an excellent shoe. I would not hesitate to get a pair of Metcon 8s if you like the color. The price doesn't bother you. If you have the option between a 7 and 8, I do not think the price difference is enough to substantiate getting the newer model in this shoe. Every other year they kind of toggle, like the 9s will probably be a whole new model that we'll see that we haven't seen before, whereas the 7s were kind of the base model, and then the 8s build off those. So then we'll see the 9 and the 10s will probably build off those. Every other year they come out with a whole new model, and then that following year just builds off them. There's not enough difference to make up for the price difference. One of the main things being the upper, the chain link is gone, and you have the square look, and then the medial side, you don't have that medial rope guard any longer. But they're both great shoes, so thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd be glad to answer them down below. Or if you have any shoes that I should try out, let me know that as well. Thanks.